harm to me was physical on one level, but it was also, it potentially could have made my workplace feel very unsafe. So a person kicked me to the ground. Um, I was not physically hurt, but I was, quite shaken up. And I also felt assaulted. Had been assaulted. So that had never happened to me before. And yeah, it was very disturbing. My mom is a social activist and has been for quite some time. She has served on the board of Langley Restorative Justice. So I knew what its loose goals were, and also that there were organizations. I didn't know if there was one in Richmond, but I knew that if there was, that the police could connect me with them. And also I had some knowledge of circles, restorative circles within healing circles within maybe Indigenous tradition. I felt that it was important to explore a different form of, a different way of being with the person who had done the assault. Well, I think the first thing was the police totally supported me on it, so that was good. I think if they had said, "Oh no, you shouldn't do that," I would have been more trepidatious about exploring it. My contact and preparation with the staff at Touchstone, having the whole process explained to me beforehand, having the option to opt out at whatever point I wanted to, the care and empathy that I received when telling what happened, the many times I was asked for my approval, or was this okay? It wasn't just once, I was asked many times. I felt supported no matter what decision I made, and that was really important. The facilitator asked me, "Where do you want to sit?" And that might sound like a small thing, but in this situation, it really made me feel like I'm in control here. I'm not being forced to do something that is beyond what I feel comfortable with. I feel safe, and I have choices. I just, that's a very small, concrete, maybe example of building that safety. Obviously, before that, meeting in a space where I knew it was confidential, knowing that the person had been trained, that the questions that they were asking me had been vetted through a number of processes, that the questions were very focused on the experience and not suppositional, not speculative, that the emotional regulation was really present with the counselor, that I had been informed about the family and the individuals, so I knew going forward what I was potentially who I was going to encounter, and that I trusted that you had done the same thing with them, so that we weren't going to be bunnies in the headlights. Yeah. Yes, and that wasn't really like check mark, check mark, check mark. The way it worked was I had already talked about what would make the amends that I was looking for, so I didn't have to focus on that. That was already planned. So in the actual circle, I could really, my mind, body, heart had time to really absorb what that other person was telling me, how they were telling me. We went over the same thing a few times, not in a kind of like checkmark, checkpoint list, but really in a way that was very important to me, and I think it was important to the other person. There was a lot of things that I didn't understand about that situation, why that would happen, why this happened, in general. And as I talked with this individual, I realized I thought there was something behind the situation, and I became familiar with what it was. And of course, that engendered a sense of empathy and compassion. At the same time, there was like, yeah, but you did this. So it was wise compassion, I would call, discerning compassion. It wasn't just, okay, you're all right. There was, you're having a terrible life, and so you're forgiven. It was, okay, I'm glad I know that, and this still happened, and we have to figure out how amends will be made. Well, because I made the suggestions, although, you added some things as well, I felt that they were appropriate for my situation. I would imagine every situation is different. What works for me might not work for another person in the very same situation. I felt that they were appropriate. They addressed my workplace concerns. They addressed my emotional concerns, and they addressed my concerns for that person because I really felt like they needed some assistance. They needed help, and and they did, and that was really a huge outcome for me. I wouldn't say after the actual circle. I don't think it was closed right then because we had a contract. Certain things had to be done, and they were done, and so I knew that they were done. So once those conditions had been met, then I felt more that the situation had been resolved. It hasn't continued with me. Like, I feel like that closure has been very healing, has been complete, has been appropriate, has been forward moving. I'm not left with any hanging questions or inconclusive feelings or a sense of, wait a minute, did I just get what I needed, or what happened? I definitely felt like I was restored, and that justice as I saw it from the amends that I requested had been served. Okay, well, it's pretty intense. I was super glad that I had support people with me. I was also very grateful that it was facilitated by experienced facilitators because even with the best of intentions, with highly articulate and evolved humans, those kinds of conversations can be very emotionally charged. So I was very drained afterwards. It was, emotionally very draining during, a little bit before, although I didn't feel apprehensive. I felt interested. I felt um, curious, but I didn't feel scared. In the meeting itself, I never felt threatened or scared. I did feel a lot of emotion, both from myself, but also from, how you say, the offender, but also his support and my support. So I heard from my support people things that I hadn't heard from them before. And it was a very, and this is going to sound funny, but it was a very positive human experience. Being able to directly talk to that person, to feel their confusion, their sense of remorse, their willingness to make amends really directly, is super important. It's not something that you would feel in a court of law because you won't face them in this circular way. You're facing a judge, you're on either side, you're very separate. I really felt that the circle included all of us, and that all of us were, each person in that circle valued and was invested in the process and came away from the process better, a better human being for it. That remember, you can stop at any time. If you feel like it's not going to address your needs, if you feel like it's not working, at any time you can stop. So, unlike a court proceeding where you go all the way through regardless, in this instance, if, for example, you're feeling, I don't feel like this is genuine, or I don't feel like this is truly going to make the amends that I'm looking for, you can stop, reassess, ask for different things, ask for something completely different, like, no, I want to go to court. So there's a tremendous amount of flexibility. At the same time, it's not woo-woo, it's not, it's not amorphous, it's not without structure. It has a structure. The structure is there to protect everyone. It's there to also to facilitate meaningful amends, to restore the feeling of the person who's been hurt. And it does it. It's effective. And it has, it helps you move forward, not just with that situation, but it really provides you with some skills for other situations as well. That's not the intent, but that can happen. I think it's really important for people to know that the victim is the first concern. The person who's been hurt is of the first paramount concern. That doesn't mean, that you can ask for $1 million in restitution, or things that are totally unlikely. But it isn't a system. It's you. You are important. I think I would just like to say that I was really impressed with everyone that I worked with, from the first constables that interviewed me, to victim support services, to my telephone conversations with you as a counselor to set things up, with the translator who was there, with the meeting itself, with the follow-up. It was just very skillfully done and very impactful. And I've told many people about it, and hope that more people will consider this as a possibility for things, for situations where they've been harmed.